Hey, Eva Andrea here, and a quick note to personally invite you to come and check out my writing circle. Over the years, my work has organically grown into a blooming community of like-hearted souls who, like you, are on a journey of discovering their writing magic. Visit eva-andrea.com and you find the door in the menu. Now, let's dive in. Welcome to Write Your Light, a podcast to explore and activate our soulful writer within. I'm so delighted that you are here with me. Thank you for listening to your calling. I am so excited to introduce to you my amazing guest that we have in the house today. It is Reverend Dr. Paul Luftenegger, who is not only an international multi-award-winning singer and songwriter, who is inspiring global love and kindness from within the heart and soul. He's also a very dear soul brother to me, and I'm so excited to have you here with us today, Paul. Thank you for coming. How are you feeling?
I'm so excited to be here, and you're one of my favorite people on the planet. So I really genuinely mean that, and I feel so blessed to be here with you and everyone listening. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, that is so sweet. You're melting my heart already.
Ah,
And you know, since I heard your music for the first time, it was the song My Heart that just hit my heart and soul and actually connected us in a beautiful way. I have been so amazed by the way you not only speak of the divine and about light and love, but you embody it. You know, you really live it. And I would love for us today to go into your journey and hear much more about how do you do it, you know, and what happened and all of that. So what about we start with, when was the first time that you would say that you were riding your light?
well, I think the thing that's sort of interesting is that, um, life is a big container, a big journey, right? So I think the thing that I realized, I think in 2011, was that I had been prepared for 33 and 34 years to sort of write my light. And I would say that I don't think I really understood it until my father's transition, which was in 2011. So I started to write my light with God, answering the call from within with God to start writing music to help others. And I was very confused about this at the beginning. It didn't come easy. It was sort of like a no, 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 I'm not doing that. So my resistance was very immediate, and I remember thinking like this was just for me at the beginning. And it was really quite a challenge to sort of embrace what I knew was being asked from God to share with the world. So I think the thing that I just want to say is it's not always easy to write our light because there's so much at risk with our vulnerability. I actually don't really like performing. That's my truth. I don't actually really I've learned how to fall in love with the process and how to fall in love with the moments, but it didn't come naturally to me to be on a stage by myself, playing my music and singing my music for very large audiences sometimes.
Mm.
And what I realized is that I was making it too much about me on the stage, and I had to let go of that and make it about the audience, and that actually fixed it. So, I think just writing our light started, and I think like anything, it just takes time to sort of become what it's becoming.
Mm. Oh, thank you so much for your openness and for sharing that. I feel that is very, very relevant and very fascinating also to hear, and I can totally relate to that journey of, it's like a hero's journey. When we get the calling, the hero always feel a resistance to the call, right? That is like in all good stories, right? And you really
The
put it.
question, no, 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 not me. Yeah.
I didn't say sign up for this, right? Yeah, wow, that's very fascinating. And yet you did it anyway.
Mhm.
What do you feel made you say yes to your calling?
I think one of the things that is very interesting, and anybody that, I mean, so this is the challenging part of this is anyone that has that connection to God, the way that you really embrace. God is sort of funny because God isn't the conventional, the man in the clouds with, that version. Not at all. God is very different, and God comes through the heart and is within you. And when you're asked, the silence after being asked is what's so hard because you feel the void of God just waiting for you. And I think for me, that's when I really like, I couldn't handle the silence of that without God. And God was very silent after I was asked
Mm.
about this quest that was being asked of me, that I feel very much is my Dharma and my mission in life. So, and I've always known it, if I'm really honest with myself. It's just that I just didn't know it would look this way. I didn't know it would be this way, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. And God is in the silence. Yes.
Yeah.
And just also for anyone sitting here listening who's maybe not so familiar with using the word God, maybe we should kind
Yeah.
of put some words to that right away, because I like to say that when we talk about God, let it be the God of your own understanding.
I like
Let
how
it
you say that.
let it be. Is it love? Is it universe? Is it source? What is it for you? Right? That makes you connect. So it's taken me many years to use the word God again after being very brought up very religious.
Right.
And then after my awakening, I had a time where I couldn't use the word God, but now I'm much more comfortable with that word. But it's not about the word, it's about the energy of love, right? Are we on the same page about that?
Oh God, 100%. And the thing that I
Mm-hmm.
just want to add to that, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I realize in God is that we have our own unique relationship with the beloved. I like to use the word beloved or the
Mm-hmm.
phrase beloved. And the thing that I just want to say is that, as your experience and as your understanding of God expands, so do you. And as you start to expand and understand yourself, God shows you very different things than you once thought God was. And that's sort of the journey and the quest that's the unknown, the mystery. And it's different for everyone. So my version of God is definitely not probably yours. And but in the end, the one commonality is that there's an omnipresent love. And that is what I really love to define God as for me. Yeah.
Love that definition. I'm with you in that.
Yeah.
This divine light, right?
Mm.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. Because also, I really want us to embrace everyone who listen to this and like, yeah, it can be the God of your understanding. So, thank you so much, Paul. I'm so intrigued by your journey, and I would love us, since this is a podcast for light workers and heart connected writers, to go a little more into
Mhm.
what does the creative process look like for you? You have created many, many beautiful songs,
Mhm.
and you also you do both the songwriting and the music, right? So it's like, and you sing, and it's like, so you are so creative. What does it look like for you? Could you walk us through it? How do you write a song?
Yeah. Well, it's sort of an interesting thing. So it's a process to figure out your own creative way, and it is an evolving thing. So it's never a static, always the same. There are some similarities, but I think for me, so when I write or when I have a message from God, so I have nine, I'm working on my ninth album, which is I'm going to have over 100 songs after this one, which is a lot. I never really thought it would be like this. So it's sort of I feel like I've certainly done some hard work on this. It's a 24-hour a day job, 7 days a week to be who I am. So that being said, so the creative process is one that you have to sort of figure out your way, number one. And I think for me, it becomes a spiritual practice. So that means it starts maybe by going for a walk in the forest. And then what happens when you go within. And I would say that the biggest thing about the creative process in my experience, and I think it's probably similar for many, many people, is that you have to tap into source, God, creator, the one, the all, something greater than yourself, and you have to bring that into your heart. And you have to fill up your whole inner being with divine love. And when you do that, you have to start understanding that I think ultimately when you open your heart, you bring something through you as an instrument. And just like a beautiful, gorgeous, handmade piano, our body is a temple, and we have to bring to life something that's from within our sacred technologies, which is our soul and our heart. And then you have to kind of present it where you have to bring the inside of your love to the outer world. And I think, you do that through writing, you do that through podcasts, you do that through your devotion, right? And I do the same thing, but mine's through writing music and podcasts and sharing the story and inspiring people to fall in love with really ultimately the love within them, and sharing that with the outer world, and it fills the outer world with more love. So I think the process begins with that. And then I sit down at the piano with God, literally, and I bring through whatever is coming through onto the page, through my heart, and through the melody that just shows up. It's quite miraculous. Yeah, but that's the how.
It's fantastic. And it resonates deeply with me, and the way I recognize the creative process for me, but also how I teach in my school,
Yeah,
for of intended writing. It's like it's all about the connection, isn't it?
yeah, it's
And
hard.
tapping in. And then it's almost given to you in that process, right?
Yeah,
Um, I remember something you've said to me another time when we spoke, Paul, that I'm just coming to my mind now. We talk about this button that we have in our heart.
yeah,
Can you speak to that? Because I think that
yeah.
could maybe help people to not only connect, but expand the vessel in a way,
Yeah.
expand your heart.
So one of the things, so I have a very, I'm quite clairaudient. So I have messages that come through in a way that's very specific that way. And some people have like an inner ding or another way maybe. But for me, it's quite clairaudient, meaning like I am told kind of with guidance what that looks like. And messages are lighter than a feather and even lighter than that. So it's not this density that's speaking to you. It's very light. So you have to be very still to hear the messages. They're very subtle at times. So that means like meditating. But the thing that happened to me after my dad died is I was shown that I have a dial. So the word would be a dial, like almost like on a radio. And you have to, a big knob, and you have to turn that dial up to pure, whole, round love. And I remember it was like I had to reach into my gut with all of my gut and turn up my love, my frequency of love. And I remember I used to suffer from quite a lot of anxiety. And ever since I did this, I've never had the anxiety like I used to. And I feel like when you reach inside of yourself and turn up your dial, literally, with strength from your heart and your gut, you turn up love. And I think that what happens in the world is when you turn up your love, you're able to understand a lot more about life. And that dial is it changed my life, that dial. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love that so much, and how you make it so, in a way, simple to understand. Um, and it takes some courage to do, but it's really beautiful how that can kind of shift your frequency, or enhance it even more. So thank you so much for sharing that with our listeners. I love that, because it's kind of esoteric, right? But it's working.
Yeah, it definitely works. Look at the rainbow. Like, what's that?
Yeah, now you have a rainbow in your head. Just for
Wild.
those who can't see the interview, now he has like a beautiful rainbow in his
It's coming
in
in.
his third eye. I love that.
That's funny.
Yeah, wow. So wow. I'm so curious, Paul. Do you have some experience that you would like to share about specific songs, and how they came to you? Are there some songs that kind of stand out, how they came through to you? That could be fun to hear more about.
Yeah, I think that, the song that I want to talk about today is the song that connected you and I. I think that that makes a lot of sense. And it's one that's commonly, I think, just talked about in the way that it works. And one of the things that I love about Louise Hay, so anyone that knows Louise Hay, great. If you don't know Louise Hay, perhaps you might want to Google her. But one of the things that she always says is that, life is really very simple. What you put out comes back to you, right? So when you look at that statement and when you understand its energy and its truth. One of the things that I had as a child, when I was probably about 16 or 17 years old, when I was studying music and just living my teenage years, not really aware of any of the things we're talking about like this. One of the things, I was always drawn to psychics, and I was always very aware of the fact I was a seeker of God in all forms. So I was curious about psychics, I was curious about mediums, and I went to mediums and psychics, and I just was called to know more about God. I was very curious, and I would have messages come through that I did not understand. When I was 16 or 17, I had this huge message come through sitting at the piano that I would write a quantum heart love song. And it was sort of like, I didn't know what quantum was, not a word I had ever heard. I didn't understand it, and I thought it was just a weird moment. Fast forwarding from 16 or 17 to when I was, in the space in 2011 after my dad died, I had a very big moment with God where God showed me that this is a quantum heart love song, and I wrote it. And it just fell out of me. And that song is My Heart, which was used for Louise Hay's life and the last public performance she ever had, sharing anything with the public. And she sold over 70 million copies, I believe it is, of You Can Heal Your Life. And she's published everyone you can think of in the New Age world, from Wayne Dyer to you can Google her and find out. But I think the thing that's so interesting is that song has brought me to people like you, Eva. That song has brought me to the United Nations in New York City headquarters. That song has brought me to be introduced to Dr. Bruce Lipton. That song has brought me to be with many different people. And I mean, the list is long. But I think what's interesting about that song, most importantly, is it honors the love for yourself, your worthiness of your heart. And the song goes like this: put your hand on your heart and say, I love you. And then you say, I love you. Close your eyes and feel your breath beneath that beautiful heart in your chest. And then the thing can you see it's a waterfall? And basically, your whole life is a stream of love. And your only job is to honor the self-worth within you and to truly feel the frequency and vibration of the love that dwells within you. And that song gives permission to the listener to take 3 minutes to honor the love within oneself. And I think what's really cool about that is when we do that, what happens, no matter what's going on in our lives, is we have a moment to truly be with our love. And I think that when you do that, it creates peace, love, joy, happiness, and prosperity. And I think that human beings are starting to get it, probably more now than ever before. And we're entering this beautiful, and I think we're in this beautiful new age of Aquarius. And, the angel vibrations are lifting us to our love. So I think that that's, just that song in itself is probably the most important song I've ever written, just because I think one of the things that we can do at our greatest and highest and best self is remind someone else that they're loved. And when that happens, love liberates.
Wow. First of all, I always feel like crying when I hear the words from your song. And I would wish that the listeners here could have heard the song, but you've got to go and find it. I'll put a link for the song and, of course, for All Post Music below here in the podcast, because sitting for those 3 minutes with a hand on your heart is one of the most healing things you can do. And I have seen with my own eyes in retreats and seminars where I have played that song, how transformative it is. It's really a God-given otherworldly energy that is channeled through that song in all its simplicity. It's so profound. So thank you for writing that song and all of your other songs. I love how you brought up about Louise Hay, who's an amazing inspiration also for me. And she was starting Hay House when she was, I think
She was in her
I'm not
60s. Yeah.
Was she 62 or something?
Yeah, she was in her 60s. Yeah.
Yeah, so I always found that so inspirational, it's never too late to say yes to your calling, and so she's a great inspiration for me too. And I
Hmm.
know you had a special relationship to her also, right?
Yeah, so it's sort of an interesting thing because that 90th birthday party that I went to was well, basically for her 90th birthday, and it was a surprise for her that I was coming, and the song was going to be used to honor her in front of the world. And I think there was 2,500 people live in that audience. I think it raised $250,000 for her charity, which was really cool. Everyone offered their service for free that day, and the ticket sales went to her charity, the Hay Foundation. And the thing that's very cool about it is it was sort of a moment because she really actually said nothing that day, which was just the song itself. And the thing that she gave, it was so cool because it was sort of like her mission manifested in the room because everybody just loved themselves. And, her statement, she's so famous for affirmations for those that don't know. So one of her biggest affirmations is life loves you. Life really, really loves you.
Mm.
And I think what I know in this whole experience, the coolest thing happened that day is I thought to myself, what am I going to give the woman that's very wealthy, very much had a beautiful life filled with so many things? And the message came to me, give her all of your music. And I remember going to the gift shop in the hotel I was staying at in San Diego, and I was all by myself. So, it was a rare moment where I actually was just by myself in the sense that I didn't travel there with anyone. And I remember just going into the hotel gift shop trying to find something, and I could not think what to buy this woman. And then this message came, and so I bought a bright yellow bag and put yellow tissue paper, bought a beautiful card, and put all of my music in it. And I remember giving that to her through a friend for her birthday. And you know what's wild? When she was dying, which was probably when she was transitioning about 10 months from that time, what's so wild is she didn't make 91 years. So it was her 90th birthday, 10 months later. The person that brought her to that was Alia, who's a very good friend of mine, who took care of Louise Hay for the last years of her life, the last 15 years of her life. And that day when she was transitioning, Alia had a message from within herself to go to the stereo system, and that bag with all my music was actually found by Alia and was guided for Alia to put it on while she was transitioning. And when you really think about that, she's like my fairy godmother. So I think the thing that's interesting about it is she sort of passed the baton to all of us. We are the ones that she wanted to remind that life loves you. And our job is to acknowledge it and embrace that. But it's so interesting because I feel her kind of with me throughout my life. And I brought this yellow rose. Her favorite thing, whenever she had a negative thought, she would always think of yellow roses.
Oh,
So
I didn't know
I
that.
just thought, this was one of the beautiful sort of teachers of many things. And she ultimately taught, really, quite frankly, to be kinder to yourself.
Mm.
That's really the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so profound. I'm deeply moved by this story. I didn't even know those some of those details, and it's just so
Mm.
beautiful, isn't it? How
Yeah. It's
your music became a bridge for her soul as well to go back to God. That's
yeah.
really beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, and she is with you. And you even have some of her ashes there, isn't that right?
I do. Yeah, one of the things that I was given from with Alia, and so I actually was given her pink rose quartz crystal heart that sat on her desk, which I'm just showing for those on the podcast
Wow.
that can't see this. But I
Mm.
have this beautiful pink rose heart crystal that was given to me. And I wrote my heart, and that's I think why that was given to me.
Mm.
And then the other thing is I have some of her ashes here, and I was given these because of my relationship with her, and I will eventually plant a rose garden that will be made available to the public where that will actually rest. I have to find the right place first, though, and there will be roses in that garden
Mm.
with her ashes.
I want to come and sit and write in
I
that
can't
garden.
wait.
Can I?
I can't wait. I can't wait. Yes.
Oh, that's so beautiful. How precious. This is like, I hope that everyone who's listening here understands the beauty of what you are experiencing here. This is like so deeply behind the scenes also of how magically and mystically we are being guided in our journeys when we surrender and say yes to the calling as we started with, you know.
Yeah.
And you're such a testament of that. Um, and how when you bring yourself in alignment with your soul's longing and calling,
Yeah.
everything is possible. You know, there's nothing that is not available, you know. So thank you. And I know that you're also open about that. It's not always easy, right?
No.
So
Yeah. It's
maybe
not always.
so maybe you would share with us what you feel like sharing around. What do you feel is the biggest challenge, maybe,
Mhm.
by being a light worker today and writing your light? And
Yeah.
is, are you ever challenged?
Oh gosh, yes. And I think, this is the thing, like where I think we've in many ways been sold a very false bill of sale for life. And I think it's wonderful, but it's also really devastating to recognize that life is not really the way they told us it would be. That is the thing to overcome. So I think ultimately have to realize at some level we've been programmed, how to think about, prosperity or money, or how to think what a life should look like, or the shoulds, and they call it don't should on me, meaning like don't shit on me, because I think a lot of people sort of project how they think your life should look. I know in my life I had a lot of that in my life. um, I will say just openly, I think being gay, I am a gay man. I've been gay my whole life. I've always known it. And I grew up in the 70s where it was a death sentence, where basically we were told when we were young, the program that was told to me was that, it was during the AIDS epidemic and that you would likely die by the time you're 30. That was what was told to me. And I remember as a child being very quiet, and also that your family would likely disown you. That was the other thing. And I remember thinking to myself, in this little secret, I had to learn how to love myself enough to face my truth. And I think just like anything in life, you have to realize the truth is yours. You have to actually recognize this is your life. This isn't someone else's. You're the captain and master of your life and your fate. And once you do this, it is the greatest thing that you will ever do, because you draw a line in the sand, you cross over, and you start living your truth. And I've done it a few times in my life. I came out of the closet to my parents. Thank God they didn't disown me. They love me. And they came to my wedding, and I've been together with a beautiful, wonderful, gorgeous soul from Bermuda for 22 years now. And life isn't what they told me. I'm not dead. I live past 30. I'm actually almost 50. And the lie told to us is just that, it's a lie. And I think the hardest part about the quest that you have to embrace when you're a light worker is you have to recognize that you're a gift. And I'm going to say, I also think you have to recognize you're literally a piece of God. Think about what a soul is. If you just do the math, I don't think it's that complicated. Every single one of us is a soul, which means, in truth, that we're a piece of God. And with that piece of God, all things are possible. And the quest becomes yours once you start truly living whatever's in your heart as the compass. And when you follow the compass, and this is the thing that's the hardest, you have to realize you have to go from your head to your heart. And your heart wants you to then go to your head. And then your head has to remember, no, go to the heart. And over you go. So you have to almost like do workouts and spiritual practice to make your heart the leader of your life. And once you do, and no matter what someone might say, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to do that? No. And there'll be people that will leave your life, which happened to me, that don't want a part of it because they didn't believe that I was worth anything, really. And they shame you for your, being with famous people. That happened just yesterday. And shame you for not being humble in their mind. But the thing is it's not about them, it's about you. And I think the real big challenge comes when you face your fears with courage and you have to really love yourself through it. And I think the challenge is a constant ongoing thing in a world that's unconscious, and we live in a triggered world. So we are, to me, in my mind, all of the light workers were sent from God to help a planet that's forgotten God. That's what I think.
Mm. I feel you. Thank you so much for this. Yeah. And thank you for your courage to say yes to being you, even if it took a lot of courage, as you just shared. I so respect you for that, and everyone who's going through that journey. And I know that from my own life as well, that yes, it
And it
takes
makes you
sometimes
emotional.
all our courage, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very, and like you're just saying that, like my emotion just like released that, because I think one of the things I just want to say to everybody watching this is just like trust your intuition, trust your heart. It will never lead you wrong. It will never do something wrong for you. And the thing I just want to also say is I remember in my ordination sort of process and in my interfaith seminary, one of the things that I remember as a story is I remember reading John O'Donohue's book, and many of them, but one in particular, and it was all about the fact that there is really, as he was a priest from Ireland, just to put that into perspective for those that don't know, and he's an incredible poet, and he's one of my favorite writers for God. And the thing that he said is that there's two ways that you'll experience somebody when you're with somebody that's dying. There's the person that dies with a smile on their face, and there's the person that dies with regret in their heart. Those are the only two options. And the thing that's very interesting to me, and a priest experiences doing the last rites during that time often, right? So a person that you might want to think of talking to about how to get to the end and having this smile on the face would be somebody that's experienced both. And I think at the end of your life, to have a smile on your face and joy in your heart is to have lived your truth and to have lived your purpose from your heart. And no matter what happens or the challenges, just do it anyways, because you'll get to the end of the road where you just transcend, like water that's ice turns to vapor. I don't think that there's anything but just a change of state when we leave. There's no end. We're eternal beings. And then you leave this planet in a very different space with a smile from within you. And that's
Mm.
something that I really like. I feel that's just one of those helpful little nuggets that I'm working on every day.
So beautiful. And it's funny because he's also one of my favorite
Is
writers. We
he?
haven't talked about that, but he's like that's his books that I have on my nightstand. So
Yeah,
he also wrote the Adam Kara book, and
I
yeah, it's
love that
beautiful.
book.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
and I love that very. It's like a litmus test almost, right? You can ask yourself, will I die with a smile on my face if I do this or
Right.
not, right? um,
Oh, that's a really good point. I love that you
mhm,
said that. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
Wow, and you're such an example in living your dharma and allowing all these, because these challenges are in a way just they're invitations, right, for us to transcend and grow, as you say. And sometimes we come to the end of ourselves, and that is what it's about, to
Yeah, can I
surrender
tell
into
you? I
love.
want to tell you one other thing in this. One of
Mhm.
the things I want to sort of give you a little bit of a taste behind the closed doors I've been behind. So
Mhm.
I've been in closed rooms there's always two types of people that get to those rooms. So I'm talking about the rooms to be with like the Dalai Lama, or the rooms to be with, Dr. Bruce Lipton, or the rooms to be with Louise Hay, etc. Okay? What's very interesting to me is that there's always two ways to get there. And I'm talking about the rooms that require money. So there's always the rooms that are those rooms that there's two tickets in there. There's the one that pays the money to get in there, and then there's the one that earns it with their heart. And I've been in those rooms where, I won't say names, but someone's funded something for that person to be in that room. no names given. And there's always a few that got through to that door with their heart. And I swear to God, it's so interesting to be a witness to that. And it's very wild how God's alchemy works through love. And I think eventually those rooms will be filled with only those that got tickets with love. But we're in the transition, and still to this day, those rooms are filled with people that buy their way to the front of the line.
Mm.
And I think I'm excited about the fact that I think it's the light workers that are going to bring back, that other part. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love how the light is just hitting your face as you're speaking
Crazy.
here.
Actually, like, I don't know what's,
It's quite
it's like
beautiful.
of all the things, it's actually quite comical. I
Yeah,
don't know what to do about it. Yeah.
it's beautiful. Just embrace it. Yeah, you are shining the light here, brother. Yes, and I hear you, and it's interesting now. Since we are kind of going down the rabbit holes here.
Yeah.
I'm studying the Kabbalah now, and I've
Oh,
found lots of wisdom in that. And they speak about in the Kabbalah that is like the ancient universal wisdom teachings, that you have to earn the light.
yeah.
And that's actually what you're speaking about here, that there are ways to earn the light. When you actually when you are conscious and you are standing there in your challenges and you're transcending and you're choosing love over fear, you're earning the light so your vessel can be expanded and miracles can happen. You earn the light of your soulmate, you earn the light of your success and all those things actually by doing your inner work. Isn't that a little bit what you're talking about here?
Well, and I love how you just said that, because that is, and I say all of this too because we're here to remind each other. Like, the thing that I just want to say about all of this too, this isn't me. This is God. Like I don't know. I'm so confused by God at times. So I and then I think, one of the things I'm always aware of is I'm blessed in disguised.
Mm.
I'm those blessings are in disguise often, and they don't feel like it never works out the way I think it's going to. It works out the way that God knows best. And that's very annoying at times. But
For the
it's
mind.
also the way God works. And the thing that you just have to do is, if it doesn't work out the way that you think it will, is you just keep going. And every single day is fresh with no mistakes. And you start
Mm.
honoring the fact that today is a blessing. I will be glad and rejoice in it. And through and with God, all things loving are possible.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
And I just love that you brought that up, because that's
Mm.
so, you do earn, the more you do this, your light gets brighter, you know.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
your affluence and influence, if you really mean it from your heart, it opens doors that nothing else will.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, it's beautiful. Ah, so, oh, Paul, there's so many things I would like to ask you about. This is so fascinating.
Mm,
Um, just to kind of make a little jump here, if you
yeah.
don't mind, um, have you have you any thoughts about how do you see? Because I'm so fascinated by the power of words
Hmm.
and how our words are creators of energy or carriers of energy and all of this. How do you see that the dance between, since you are a songwriter, the lyrics and the frequencies of the
Yeah.
music? Are there anything you could say
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, I'm glad you actually brought this up, because I want to kind of dial back to 2011 when I was being shown this. So something that was shown to me. So I want to bring attention to really one person in particular with words. And Dr. Maya Angelou is who I want to talk about. Okay. So in 2011, I was shown, and this is wild because where and how this manifested was absolutely bananas. It was so wild. And I remember watching her talk about I was obsessed with her for some reason because she was talking about words. And I knew intuitively I was being shown by God in my grief for my father's suicide. And the thing I just want to say is I had this rock given to me when I was a child, and it says create on it. It's engraved into the stone. And I remember my mother gave me this stone, and I remember I never really I never really understood this until my dad died, why she gave this to me. And I remember it sitting by my piano, And I remember being shown this and that I needed to create a new life. And Maya Angelou came in at that time with a teaching. And she's one of, if you don't know her teachings spiritually, definitely look them up. She's my mentor for sure. And she said that one day we'll be able to measure how much power each word has. And that not only do we have to be mindful of the words we use, we have to use our words consciously. And if you go back to Oprah Winfrey, on her stage wall before you'd enter her stage to be filmed before the world, every single person would see one line: be responsible for the energy you bring to the room, meaning the stage. And those words changed my life because we have to be responsible for the words we use. And once you are, it changes, it builds your life. And in the Bible, was in the beginning there was the word, and the word was with God, is always the statement. So when you use your words, they're connected to power. And the thing that I just remember her story about this is, keep in mind she's a black woman, was a black woman, still is in my mind. And she used to say and be famous for kicking people out of her house when they used negative words. So she would be famous for catching somebody speaking a racial pejorative or a sexual pejorative, and she'd call them out and give them one chance. And she'd say, "Oh, no, you don't. Not in my house, because your negative words are not getting in my walls. They're not getting in my carpet, my upholstery, my curtains, none of that. And they're not going to get in me. Please stop it." And people would be shocked that she'd do this at a cocktail party. And the thing is that she's absolutely right. And I think when we write our words, like you in your books, or me in my music, or any of the wonderful, wonderful books in our world, there's, I mean, how many books that are wonderful? Endless. But when we use the words and our heart and our soul to do good in the world, it creates quantum waves of goodness. And those good words create experiences that people have with the thing that was once in our heart. And the thing that I love about music, that I just want to say with words, is that in a music, because it's a frequency, I actually feel like there's a lot of healing that's in frequency. So words have frequencies. So when you say the word love, you feel something. When you say the word rose, you feel something. When you say something that's, when you say coffee, you feel something. It's smell, it's sensory, right? We're sensory beings. So when you use words that are loving and supportive for the listener, it goes right from the inside of you. It can only be decoded by a sacred technology from from another heart and soul. And I love how frequencies of words and melodies and harmonies, it has to be decoded instantly in another human being. And that's why I love music, which is one of the reasons why, if you think about all the jingles that companies used to advertise with, like Mentos, you know, like Mentos Freshen Your Breath, that song, it's sort of funny because it gives people an instant understanding of something. So I think, just to go back to the point of just frequency and words, it's so important to understand the power of words.
Wow. This is so good, Paul. And I thank you for bringing Maya Angelou up.
Yeah,
She's also, I have been deeply inspired by her work and
yeah,
her spirit, I'll say.
yeah,
She has such a
yeah,
strong spirit, but her writing is also amazing. And thank you for bringing up that kind of very radical insight she had into the power of words, right?
yeah,
And how it creates reality. And I love how you bring these high frequent words into your music and also in your speech and when you share. Um, it's almost like words are transporting the energy. I love what you said about the decoding also, because it's about the receiver as well.
yeah,
Some
exactly.
one soul might hear one of your songs and decode the whole thing, while another maybe just get the first level of the layer of the energy in the song. And maybe that is also why, I don't know if you recognize this, but I have experienced listening to a song in different stages of my journey, and then I get different things from it
Yeah,
because I'm more
totally.
ready maybe to take it in.
Yeah.
Could that be?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the thing that, like just to add to like one of the things that she used to always say is and I don't know if this will work on here, but she used to sing this song, when it looked like the sun wasn't gonna shine anymore, God put a rainbow in the clouds. And I
Yeah.
think what I love about that is, if you get some clouds, fine, but remember that the rainbows always come, like no matter how hard it is or whatever's going on too, like, yeah, maybe you'll get a cloud or two or some clouds, but just remember that you will always have rainbows too, you know?
Mm, that's
So
good.
important. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. And doesn't she also say you can be a rainbow in somebody's clouds, right?
Yes,
And
exactly.
and
Yes,
that's what you are. That is what everyone who's listening here are, that are sharing their light.
absolutely.
You are rainbows in other people's clouds as well.
You are, and that's I'm so glad you said that because she did say that. And not only did she say that, she lived it. Like
Mhm.
and it's so funny because in 2011, this is so crazy how this happened. After I was studying her, she came to my hometown where I was writing all of my music, and she came here to the University of Western Ontario. Where I live is actually where all of the black slaves were freed from America on the Underground Railroad. Okay. So she promised that she would come here once in her life before she died and transitioned to honor the freedom of the slave. And I have to tell you, that happened in 2011. And I went to the University of Western Ontario. I had burned a CD and I had made it for her. And I bought a rainbow card and I gave it to her. And I think just more than anything, the fact, and she wasn't traveling at all because she was older at this time, but the fact that she came here, even in her like late 80s, is incredible. Like it's such a wild, I don't know how old she would have been when she came. She was for sure around, I think probably about 85. And um I just think it's just miraculous that that even happened and that I was even able to do that, you know?
Uh-huh.
It's
Oh,
wild.
it's so beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Mm.
wow, Paul, this is prime time. And I want to ask you a few more things, because when you look back on your journey as a conscious co-creator with God,
Yeah.
universe, how do you think, oh, what would you say has become more and more clear or has deepened in the way that you co-create with God? Could you say
Yeah.
something about that?
Yeah, well, the thing that's interesting about life is that I think you live it forward and understand it backwards, right? So we live it forward, we understand it backwards, which is sort of the divine design. But one of the things that I feel is really important as you do anything is that you have to remember that we were a child first. And I feel like the older I get and the more I live my life, and the more I watch people that are really happy as they get older, they somehow figured out how to take their childhood and maybe there was some challenges in it, but if they heal that, then they're no longer a wounded child as an adult. They take the joy from their childhood, they bring it into their every moment of now. And I know, like as an example, Louise Hay, when I was studying some things with her, she actually used to always go to like art classes for like 7-year-olds and finger paint, or she would sign up for, those sorts of fun things. So I think just to remember your childhood spirit and to invite your child to come with you on the journey as the adult is actually something that I'm really interested in.
Mm.
So I don't know if that answers the question, but I feel like that's just part of the journey that we have to figure out somehow. And
Yeah.
it's not always easy because I think in our childhood, of course, me as the gay child was hurt, but I had to figure out how to heal and bring the pure essence of my childhood into my now. And I
Mm.
think just one of the things that when I create with God more and more, to go back to your specific question, I feel like it's always evolving. And I'm not the same, I'm not meant to be the same version that I was every time I write something new. I'm really expanded more. And, I remember reading something about there's really only two states to be in. It's either contracting or expanding. And I think that if we're loving and kind and working our light and our love, we're expanding. And the more you share that and open that space, you actually expand your I think your ability to hold love, you know?
Mm. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how much I love that you bring in that inner child energy,
Yeah.
because that is so much a part of also of my teaching actually, and
Yeah.
how we have to bring that inner artist child out, because it's joyful, and it's also kind of bypassing the ego when we bring in that inner child. It's like we we create from the joy of creating, and
Yeah.
not about showing off. Or so it's like it's really a portal into the kingdom of heaven, I think,
Yeah,
when
I
we
think
when
so.
we pass through that inner child. Yeah.
Well, they say, what is it? Through a child's, the kingdom is through a child's heart, I think is what they say.
Yeah,
Something like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So that's wonderful. And how lovely is that, right?
Yeah. It's such a gift.
And I also think that is a sign. We often see that now. You spoke of Dalai Lama, for example. Truly enlightened people are quite connected with their inner children now.
Joyful.
And the
Yeah.
joy, right?
They're quite, I mean, if you ever meet any of these people, I remember the Dalai Lama when I, it was so funny when I met him. He was so funny, but one of the things that I never really thought about, he has so many people handling him, and he actually was being carried around, like he didn't even walk. And it was such a fascinating thing to be in that where we were in that private audience, it was the first time he had ever served tea and cookies to a private sort of
Mhm.
function, and we had cookies and tea with him, and it was such a funny, like he was like gobbling them like a cookie monster, and like he's like he was sort of like, I'm sharing my, he loves cookies, and he was playing like a kid with all of us. It was so funny.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. It's like down from the pedestal, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
so good.
Yeah. He was like
So
the big kid on the stage.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my God, that's inspiring.
Yeah.
So Paul, I know that you are, as always, creative. And would you like to share a little what is unfolding right now for you in this season?
Yeah.
What are you creating at the moment?
Yeah, I'm so excited. So one of the things that's going on right now is I'm working on my ninth album, and it's going to be called Sunshine. And I'm really excited about it because it's sort of like this vision that I have is that I'm going to write this a little differently because it's going to be all around the focus of sunshine. And I don't know exactly, I mean, it's an evolving process, but I'm doing it as a crowdfunder, which is really exciting because so many people get involved with it. So this album the bill of it will be around 20,000 is what I've calculated. And one of the things that I love about doing this is it creates so many people getting involved to create new music. And it's sort of an interesting thing because it's also a leap of faith with vulnerability to ask for money. And I remember I used to get a little bit more weird about that, but maybe I minimized the possibility a little bit more than I needed to because I think people want to give and want to help, and you just have to give an opportunity. So I've been running this 60-day crowdfunder, and within the first, I guess we're at 12 days, it just reached the half mark. Actually
Ah,
yesterday. So
mm,
someone had donated $500. Actually, I've had two very famous people donate to this album,
mm,
and I won't say their names out of respect, but there's some links to some very beautiful people that everybody knows,
mm,
which are actually in the mainstream world, which
mm,
is wild. But the fact that those people donated and that almost that starlight and that star love feels very cosmically involved in this album. And it's interesting because it's called Sunshine. So
mm.
it's going to be available for people to get involved. And it will run until I believe May the 4th, for the crowdfunding, and then I'm recording it in August in the
Oh,
eighth month. I wanted it, the best month of the summer is August to me. August rush, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that you share that, Paul. And first of all, I just really love the title. It's so
Yeah,
bright. It really has that inner child energy, actually,
yeah,
that we spoke of, that joy, the light, the love. And I will put a link under this podcast for everyone who feel moved to be a part of that, to go and share something, because I feel that as you said, it's an opportunity to be part of something that can really lift the world, to support that. And if it's with $1 or if it is with hundreds, you will feel. Really want to encourage you, if you feel moved to support something that can really uplift the world, to go and do that. Um, I know that your music is really a part of the new age, the golden
Yeah.
age. It's a bridge for many people to connect with their heart and soul and the love all around us. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for doing that. And I can't wait to hear your album and
I
to
know. One of the
experience
things
your music.
I
Yeah.
want to tell you something that I'm so excited about doing. So one of the ways that this works, and just to add just a little piece of fun to this, one of the things that I'm doing on this album is more fun, and I want to have more fun in my life. So what I decided to do, even as one of the many rewards, if you go through, it's like a menu. You can choose whatever you want to choose from a menu of rewards that you can receive for your donation. So one of the things that I'm doing is I'm holding a VIP party in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And actually those tickets have sold. I'm so excited because after I record this on the 19th of August, I'm going to have an after party in Toronto, and the VIP ticket includes having some champagne and actually meeting my producer, my sound engineer, having a tour of the studio, and being a part of the wrap party. And that's just like one little fun thing that I'm doing. And I didn't know if anybody would actually want that, but already people have bought that, and I'm so excited.
Of
Like,
course, of
yeah,
course. I
it's like,
want to be there.
yeah,
That
I
sounds
know.
really that sounds really wonderful. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
how beautiful is that? And thank you for putting your heart and soul and creativity into this, and also for that courage it takes to say, "Hey, here I am.
yeah,
Will you help me?" Right? That is so beautiful, and it's also inviting us to feel into the oneness. We are
yeah.
one, and what you create is somehow, yeah. We are all connected.
It
So
all becomes a co-creation. So
yeah,
one of the
exactly.
things that, like, even going through this, like, you just realize how many people are in these projects, and then
Yeah,
they become part of the music, and yeah, it's very cool.
I love that.
Yeah,
So I'll make sure to put some links here so everyone can go and check that out and be
yeah,
part of that and follow the journey. And I also want, before we wrap up for today, to ask you, feeling into all these beautiful hearts and souls that are listening to this
yeah,
conversation now, light workers who have a maybe even just an aspiration to write or to create
yeah.
from that soulful place within.
Mhm.
Why is it important? Why is this divine creativity important at this time? And what would your advice to them be?
Number one, everything. So, first of all, everything that you said is so vital, actually. And not only is it vital, it's critical for our world to have the light and the love that's within the heart and the soul beaming into our new world. And this new world that's evolving right now, we're leaping forward with love right now. So not only is it vital and critical, it's everything that heaven would be. If we wanted heaven, what would it consist of? It would consist of the love that's beautifully blazing, and it would honor every heart and soul for being equal and no one being greater than the other. And I think ultimately what I would say to each of you is just keep challenging the quest, and do not under any circumstances give up. And I remember Maya, in my hardest and lowest time after my father's suicide, one of the things that she said is that, you know, ultimately, when we use our energies constructively as opposed to destructively, we have the ability to change the world forever. And if someone like Martin Luther King can have a dream and live that dream, and people don't realize he died in his 30s. Look what he achieved. And it's such a sad story, but imagine the risk if he didn't do that. And just imagine if he can do that, what is possible in your potential energy. If I can, and I say this with humility because, like, I never used to think that I could do what I'm doing. I was too up in my head. I followed my head instead of my heart. And the thing that you might be is you might be literally the person that changes somebody's life forever. And what that feels like, because I've had that experience and I know that I've changed people's lives forever. And when I have that experience, I feel almost a reflection of my heart looking back at me. And I think that what happens in this beautiful world is if we share our heart and if we can just do it the way that we naturally feel called, you experience heaven in a moment. And that is, I wish I could bottle that up and give it to everybody because that is actually like where you realize that you are actually pretty amazing. And I never used to think I was amazing. Not like that, not like that. But when you serve others, you serve yourself. And I think that
Mm.
that's really what light workers are, is we serve others. And by doing that very thing, we serve ourselves, you know?
Oh my God, this is so good. Yes, yes, yes.
Mm.
I agree. What a beautiful encouragement.
Mm.
Exactly. And if your book can touch one soul out there, it has
Yeah.
made a difference, right? If your song can, if whatever you create can touch your soul, yeah, it's
And I
beautiful.
want to, one other thing I just want to say to end this too is I remember being humiliated at the beginning when I started. This is very emotional to say, but it's the truth because I know what it's like to be you. And the thing that I remember putting my music out and I felt like nobody saw it at the beginning. I felt like I felt so I thought it was gonna like leap forward and be this huge thing and my life would change and this and that. And I remember sort of shaming myself.
Mm.
But one heart, I remember the message came through. Never, never underestimate the power of one heart.
Mm. I love that.
And I think just, like in our world, more now than ever before, what we have to recognize is the power of one heart. That is you. That is me. That is every single person. And you know why you don't underestimate the power of one heart? Is because with one heart, you can change the world forever. And
Mm.
I remember just like having to surrender into it being God's way, not mine. This isn't about just you here. And I think we need to remember not to put everybody on these really high pedestals. You know who the common good is through the everyday person, the mother or the father that just, has a little tiny family. They're not maybe rich or maybe they're not, I don't know, they're not famous or whatever. But to me, I actually think the real heroes in this journey are actually the everyday heart and soul, not the famous people in Hollywood. Not that. It's the
Mm.
everyday person that changes the world forever by having the family that is grown with love and nurturing. And the only way to do that is to be written by or shared by people that have lived it. And that would be you and I. And when we share that truth, then everything changes forever. So the
Mm.
new world to me is really it's really critical and vital that the light worker feels valued and to really take good care of the love that's within you and to know that you matter because you're here, you matter. This is no accident. You are here on purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is so good, and thank you for taking us into that moment.
Yeah.
Um, and this is so, yeah, so profound. I sometimes have been thinking of, someone like Mother Mary.
Yeah.
She touched one heart.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
look what a difference that made in
Yeah.
world history, right? So sometimes it's not about the number of followers or the number of readers or listeners, but it's about, do you have a profound impact on one heart?
Yeah.
Then you have not lived in vain, right? Uh,
Exactly. Yes.
yeah, you can die
I
with a
love that.
smile
I
on your
love
face.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really, 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 like what you just said is so, so powerful, Eva, like so powerful.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's such a great point of contemplation. That is a really, I think that that is probably the best way to leave this too, is like just remember like Mary and what that story, and Jesus is more alive now than Jesus was when Jesus was here physically, right? Like that's sort of a funny, like God's got a good sense of humor, by the way. So I mean, just look at what that did. Something
Mhm.
happened in a little town called Bethlehem, and here we are still talking about it.
Exactly. Without a big marketing budget.
Yeah, right,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, I love that. So Paul, I mean, I could sit here and talk to you forever because this is so amazing, but I will wrap up with three kind of funny questions.
Okay.
Just to go a little to the weird side, if we haven't been weird enough
Yeah, yeah,
already.
yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah.
So, well, if you could ask God one question, what
Yeah.
would it be?
Well, oh my goodness. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so if I was to ask God one question, um, I know like one of the things that I just think is funny is I think that God has the most beautiful sense of humor, and I think laughter is the lubricant of love. But I think, God is also to me my all and my everything. So I think the thing that I would want to know everything. That would be my question. I don't know how else to ask any of. I would just want to know everything. I would want to know the mystery. And as much as I want to make it really funny, because it is also really funny, I just want to know the mystery of all of it. And I think that's where I'm at. Yeah.
I like that. Oh, and that will take a while to listen to that answer. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Or it might
Wow.
just be an instant. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. A download.
yeah.
Awesome. So let's jump to the next question. If you could have dinner with anyone in this timeline or another, so out of time, who would it be and why?
Well, one of the people that I'm very specific about answering this, and it's very important. But I would actually choose Oprah Winfrey for one reason is that I feel like one of the things that happened after my dad's suicide actually was she came and helped me, and I would like to just thank her. That would be
Mm.
my answer, and I would love to have a dinner with her for that reason. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm. Wow. So let's finish up with the third question here. Which song would you love for everyone in the world to hear and why?
Mm. One of
Of
my
you.
favorite songs, yeah. So, well, I could be really funny. Should I be really funny? But
You
this is
can.
actually my childhood wants to come here, so I'm going to say the child one. I had two songs. I'll say
Uh,
both. The
okay.
adult me says that we are the world. I love that song so much with all
Yeah.
of the singers, like from Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie and all of them. I love We Are the World. Go and listen to that song. I'm going to after
Mhm.
this podcast is finished. But the other one that I loved as a kid, and this is so like me as a child, I loved Kermit the Frog singing The Rainbow Connection. And I don't know if you know that song,
Yeah.
but he sang it. So it was the Muppets, Kermit the Frog playing the banjo, and it was in the beautiful swamp of some forest, and it was this little green frog playing this banjo. And I love, if you know that song, or if you don't, Google it, but it's The Rainbow Connection, and it's by Kermit the Frog. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What a lovely answer. And I will add, I think everyone in the whole world should hear My Heart by
Oh, yeah.
Paul Luftenegger.
Well, I appreciate you asking and saying
Uh-huh.
that. The third song. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Paul, this has been so beautiful and
Thank
so
you.
surprising. Also, I have loved all the paths we've been going down through in this conversation and all the value and wisdom and insight and amazing stories you've shared with us. So many blessings to you and to your new album and to your sacred work. And thank you for being here in our world and for doing what you're doing. I love you so much.
I love you too, and thank you. And to everyone who's listening, just take amazing good care of yourselves. Yeah. I
Yeah,
love you, Eva. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us. And if you want to have a meeting with your divine muse, go to my page, eva-andrea.com, for a guided writing meditation loved by thousands over the years. Thank you for listening, everyone. Share this episode with your friends and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. So much love.